Imagine stealing someone's phone today. Within minutes, someone calls the police. Cameras might have recorded you, witnesses may identify you. Before long, you're standing before a judge. Now imagine committing that same crime nearly 4,000 years ago in ancient Egypt. No police cars, no fingerprints, no CCTV. And yet, Egyptians had laws, investigators, courts, judges, and punishments powerful enough to keep one of history's greatest civilizations running for thousands of years. So what actually happened if you broke the law in ancient Egypt? Let's find out.
You think ancient Egypt had no police, radios, or modern uniforms? They did have people whose job was to keep order and protect the kingdom. The best known were the Medjay. Originally skilled warriors from Nubia, they later became trusted guards responsible for protecting cities, temples, royal tombs, and important trade routes. Whenever a crime was reported, they were often the first to respond. Imagine a merchant suddenly discovers that an expensive necklace has disappeared. There are no security cameras and no emergency phone number to call. Instead, the Medjay question nearby witnesses, search the crowded marketplace, and try to catch the suspect before they disappear. Compare that to today, where police can rely on CCTV, fingerprints, and DNA evidence. The Medjay had none of these tools. They depended on careful observation, local knowledge, and the people around them. But catching a suspect was only the first step. Without modern forensic science, how could anyone prove who was actually guilty? That's where the investigation became far more interesting.
So, how did the Egyptians solve a crime without fingerprints, DNA, or security cameras? The answer was surprisingly simple. They relied on people. When a crime was reported, officials questioned witnesses, searched for stolen property, and carefully listened to different accounts of what had happened. Scribes wrote these statements on papyrus, creating official records that could later be used in court. Compare that to today, where investigators use forensic science and digital evidence. Ancient Egyptians had none of those tools. Instead, they depended on witness testimony, careful observation, and written records to uncover the truth. Of course, this system wasn't perfect. People could lie, forget important details, or accuse the wrong person. But for thousands of years, it helped keep one of the world's greatest civilizations running. Once the investigation was complete, the accused wasn't punished immediately. The final decision belonged to the court.
Once the investigation was over, the accused was brought before a court. There were no lawyers making long speeches, but there were judges whose job was to listen carefully and decide what was true. Witnesses gave their testimony. Scribes recorded every important detail on papyrus, and both sides had the chance to explain what had happened. For serious cases, the final decision could even involve the vizier, the pharaoh's highest official. Compare that to today's courtrooms, with lawyers, forensic experts, and video evidence. Ancient Egyptian judges relied mostly on witness statements, written records, and their own judgment. Only after hearing the evidence would they decide whether the accused was innocent or guilty. And if the verdict was guilty, the punishment could be far more severe than many people would expect.
If someone was found guilty, the punishment depended on the crime. Minor offenses could result in fines, beatings, or forced labor. More serious crimes, like robbery, corruption, or stealing from a temple, often brought much harsher penalties. The most serious offenses, including treason or certain royal crimes, could even be punished by death. The goal wasn't just to punish the criminal, it was to discourage others from breaking the law. Compare that to today, where many countries rely on prison sentences. Ancient Egypt had no modern prison system. Instead, punishments were usually immediate and designed to restore order as quickly as possible. To the Egyptians, justice wasn't only about enforcing rules. It was about protecting Maat, the balance that kept their entire civilization together. But was justice really the same for everyone? That's a question historians still ask today. In theory, every Egyptian was expected to follow the law, whether they were a farmer, a merchant, or a government official. Judges were supposed to follow the principle of Ma'at, the ancient Egyptian belief in truth, justice, and balance. Compare that to today, where everyone is meant to be equal before the law. Ancient Egypt shared the same ideal, although, like any society, powerful people could sometimes have advantages. Even so, the legal system helped keep one of history's longest-lasting civilizations stable for thousands of years. Different from today's courts in many ways, but built on the same basic idea. Justice should protect society, not just punish crime.
So, back to where we started. If you break the law today, cameras, forensic science, and modern courts all become part of the process. In ancient Egypt, there were no fingerprints, no CCTV, and no computers. Instead, justice depended on witnesses, scribes, judges, and the belief that truth and order must always be protected. Different tools, different methods, but the same goal: to keep society safe and hold people accountable for their actions. For thousands of years, this system helped one of history's greatest civilizations maintain order. It may seem simple by today's standards, but for its time, it was remarkably organized and surprisingly effective. And next time you hear someone say that ancient societies had no real legal system, you'll know the truth. Ancient Egypt wasn't just a land of pyramids and pharaohs, it was also a civilization built on laws, justice, and the constant pursuit of Ma'at, the balance that held their world together. And if this journey into ancient Egyptian law got you curious about what we uncover next, there's a simple way to come along. Just hit subscribe so you don't miss it.